Over the past week, Dwayne settles into the rhythm of his new reality. The initial adrenaline surge from coordinating the simultaneous retrievals dissipates, leaving a steady determination that fuels him and the team. The room buzzes with activity, agents moving with purpose and confidence now that they have witnessed Dwayne's strategic genius firsthand. The unspoken trust between him and the operatives grows more profound as he proves himself to be more than just a calculated leader. He is one of them, dedicated to the cause and ready to face the fire. Dwayne takes this time to familiarize himself with every member of the network. Each day, he delves into dossiers, learns their strengths, and speaks with them in a way that puts them at ease while pushing their limits. Aaron and Jesse stand beside him through it all. Their bond forges even stronger in the crucible of shared secrets and a mutual understanding of the stakes. The team, composed of operatives, tech wizards like Max, and tacticians with varied backgrounds, now looks to Dwayne as more than just a leader. He is a guide who has earned their respect and loyalty. Meanwhile, Dwayne maintains an invisible threat of surveillance on his mother. Every morning begins with a brief check-in, subtle but reassuring. The past few weeks show him that even the most careful plans can be derailed by a single oversight in a game of shadows. Watching over her is a silent promise to himself. She is his anchor, and as long as she is safe, he can continue down this perilous path. Celeste, ever the meticulous planner, communicates with Dwayne daily. Their exchanges are concise and laced with mutual respect. She provides updates, seeks his input, and now hands him a list of potential recruits. It is one of her personal projects, something she always insists on managing, but she knows that her judgment, while sharp, is not infallible. This particular list comes with a disclaimer. These are candidates to consider, though a few are my personal picks. Dwayne scans the names, taking in each one with the practiced eye of someone who knows that every choice has consequences. The name that catches his attention immediately is Naim Nuruddin. Memories of the young agent flicker in his mind, reliable, sharp, and someone he trusted back when they were on the other side of the chessboard. But now, Naim's involvement will be different, deeper, more risky. This isn't just a government mission. This is a rebellion that could upend everything they've ever sworn to protect. He leans back in his chair, eyes narrowing as he processes the implications. Celeste is known for weaving personal motivations into her strategy. If she is recommending Naim, there is likely a reason beyond his skill set. The room around him feels charged, operatives working with a newfound sense of purpose, a subtle reflection of their leader's drive. The air is thick with the anticipation of what comes next, a pause before the storm that will be set in motion once Dwayne makes his decision. He turns to Aaron, who stands a few feet away, scanning through live surveillance feeds on a nearby monitor. Let's talk about these recruits that Celeste sent over. Let's chat on the road. Grab your stuff, Dwayne says, his voice low and measured. Aaron glances up, a flicker of curiosity crossing his features before nodding in agreement. They are poised on the brink of a new chapter, one that will see them expand their network and solidify their plans, or risk exposure and collapse. The weight of it all presses down on Dwayne, but he wears it like armor. The choices he makes now will define the course of their mission, and with the right team, they can be unstoppable. Today is a somber day. This day he carries a solemn weight that seems to press down on everything like a heavy fog. The gray clouds casting muted shadows over the streets lined with bare trees. The air is cold and still, as if even nature has chosen to mourn. Today is the funeral, the day that the man known to the world as FBI Agent Dwayne Williams is laid to rest. It is a masterstroke of subterfuge. His death is real enough on paper, yet his presence remains among the living, working in the shadows. His mother has taken on the burden of organizing the service. Dwayne watches from afar, an unseen guardian, as she moves through her grief with the poise of a woman who has seen too much in her lifetime. She wears a simple black dress and a wide-brimmed hat, her face hidden behind a delicate veil. He wants nothing more than to comfort her, to be there as her son, but his mission keeps him distant. This is necessary, for her safety, for his own survival, and for the cause he now champions. Dwayne's mind is already moving, his thoughts a rapid-fire sequence of calculations and scenarios. He knows that Naim will be at the funeral. They have worked together before, shoulder to shoulder, in tense, high-stakes operations. Naim is loyal and sharp, qualities Dwayne respects deeply. This funeral, an event draped in loss and finality, will serve as the perfect opportunity to make a move that only Naim will understand. The church where the service is held is modest but dignified, its stone facade weathered and steeped in history. Mourners fill the pews, their faces somber, eyes glassy with unshed tears. The scent of lilies and candles permeates the space, mixing with the muted sound of a pianist playing a melancholy hymn. A large photo of Dwayne stands at the front of the room, a reminder of the life everyone believes has been cut short. His mother sits in the front pew, flanked by a few close friends, her shoulders stiff with a mix of pride and sorrow. Dwayne observes everything from a secure location, his face a mask of control, but his eyes betraying a flicker of emotion. He sees Naim enter the church, his tall frame and serious demeanor making him stand out even among agents who come to pay their respects. Naim finds a place at the back, his face set in stone but eyes restless as if searching for something or someone. Through a discreet communication device, Dwayne signals Aaron, who is stationed in the crowd, to oversee the next step. Aaron's voice comes through softly, calm but focused. Naim's in position, your move. Dwayne takes a deep breath, willing himself to stay composed. He watches as the ceremony unfolds, eulogies given, tears shed, and memories recounted. The mournful organ music swells, creating a backdrop to the orchestrated chaos that will come next. At the right moment, Aaron will slip a note to Naim, directing him to a secluded location under the guise of needing assistance with a compromised asset. The service concludes, and people begin to filter out, exchanging hushed words and solemn nods. Dwayne's mother remains seated, staring ahead, her hands clasped in silent prayer. His heart aches at the sight, but he pushes it aside as he watches Naim discreetly glance at the note Aaron has passed him, his brow furrowing as he reads the message. Naim's eyes lift, scanning the crowd before he moves purposefully toward the rendezvous point, unnoticed by those lost in grief. Dwayne's resolve hardens. He will face Naim and bring him into their cause, expanding their ranks with someone he trusts, someone who can make a difference. The funeral is over, but the mission has only just begun. Dwayne notes the unexpected complications as the crowd begins to shift and flow out of the church. Tracy and Gina, two agents he has worked with before, linger near Naim, their eyes scanning the room with professional vigilance. They are seasoned operatives, always watching, continually assessing. Worse, Emily Haden is there, her presence as sharp and imposing as ever, a hawk among sparrows. Dwayne's plan hinges on seclusion, getting Naim alone and delivering the message that will change everything. But now, with Tracy, Gina, and Emily Haden all present, the margin for error shrinks to near impossibility. He watches from his hidden vantage point, a subtle twitch of his jaw the only sign of his irritation. Every move now has to be recalibrated, every risk measured against the potential fallout. Aaron's voice comes through the discreet earpiece, a note of tension threading his words. We've got company. Tracy and Gina stick close to Naim, and Haden watches everything. What's the move, Dwayne? Dwayne's mind races, processing possibilities and outcomes at lightning speed. He knows that getting Naim alone will now require a distraction, something subtle but effective. It can't be obvious or loud enough to draw suspicion, especially with Emily's keen gaze fixed on every corner of the room. He spots Naim exchanging a few words with a mourner, his posture tense as if he feels the eyes on him. Tracy's presence only adds to the unease. She is adept at reading people, and Gina is no less perceptive, making them a formidable pair. Emily stands near the exit, appearing to engage in conversation but undoubtedly observing everything with the calculating look she is known for. Stay sharp, Dwayne whispers into the comm, masking the tension in his voice. We need to split them up. Aaron, make contact with Tracy and Gina. You're familiar enough with them to distract without raising suspicion. Give them a reason to step away, even if it's only for a minute. Aaron's reply is a low murmur. Got it. I'll pull them toward the side entrance. Watch for my signal. Dwayne's eyes lock on Naim, who begins to shift uncomfortably under the indirect scrutiny. The next few minutes will determine if the plan succeeds or unravels under the weight of too many moving parts. Aaron moves through the mourners with a practiced, casual stride, his presence unremarkable yet purposeful. He intercepts Tracy and Gina near the side entrance, adopting a friendly, somber expression that fits the occasion. "Hey, can we talk for a minute? There's something I need to say. It's sensitive." Tracy's eyebrows knit in curiosity while Gina exchanges a quick glance with her, both intrigued but wary. They hesitate, scanning the room before nodding slightly and stepping away as Naim stays in position. It is a small window, but it is enough. From his vantage point, Dwayne's eyes catch Aaron's subtle nod. This is the moment. He maneuvers through the crowd with quiet determination, weaving between mourners and strategically avoiding Emily's line of sight. Naim, sensing movement, turns slightly and locks eyes with Dwayne in his disguise. A flicker of recognition and confusion crosses his face. "Naim," Dwayne says softly, keeping his voice low and his expression neutral. "I need you to come with me, now." Naim's brow furrows. "Dwayne? What?" "There's no time," Dwayne interrupts, his voice sharp enough to convey urgency without raising suspicion. He places a hand on Naim's elbow and guides him toward the corridor that leads to the back offices. The hall is dimly lit, the muted sounds of the service and quiet murmurs fading as they move deeper into the building. Naim finally pulls back, a mix of shock and irritation on his face. "What is going on? You're supposed to be dead, man." Dwayne lets out a slow breath, the weight of the ruse and the stakes pressing down on him. "Listen carefully, Naim. Everything you thought you knew is about to change. I need you to trust me and hear me out before anyone realizes what's happening." Naim glances over his shoulder, tension creasing his forehead. "Dwayne, you have no idea what kind of heat you're walking into. Tracy, Gina, and Haden, they're all here." "I know," Dwayne says, his eyes steely with determination, "and that's exactly why we need to do this quickly." Before Naim can respond, a shadow shifts at the far end of the hallway. Emily Haden steps into view, her expression unreadable, but her eyes glinting with sharp intelligence. The pause is electric, a moment suspended in tension. "Agent Williams," Emily's voice cuts through the space like a blade. "I didn't expect to see you at your own funeral." Dwayne's heart slams in his chest, but he forces a calm smile. "Well, Director Haden, some things are worth coming back for." The silence that follows is palpable, charged with unspoken suspicions and sudden calculations. Naim looks between them, realization dawning in his eyes that this encounter is more than he could have anticipated. Emily's lips press into a thin line. "We need to talk, all of us, now." Dwayne nods, the facade of control slipping back into place even as his mind races. This confrontation has come sooner than planned, but the game is far from over. Dwayne's mind whirs with calculations as he trails Emily down the corridor, flanked only by Naim. Each step echoes with the tension of unresolved truths, as if the aged photographs lining the walls of the church bear silent witness to the unfolding confrontation. The hallway is narrow and dimly lit, amplifying the anticipation that hums between them. Emily pushes open the door to a small, dimly lit office at the far end. The scent of aged wood and dusty paper envelops them as she steps inside, her eyes sharp and assessing. Naim shifts uneasily, sensing that the conversation he is about to hear will change everything he thought he knew. "So you faked your own death, Dwayne? Why?" Emily says, her voice low and simmering with restrained fury. She closes the door behind them, sealing off the outside world. "Explain yourself." Dwayne meets her gaze, unwavering. "Emily, I understand what this looks like, but disappearing was the only way to stay ahead of what I discovered. Jesse was part of a covert network that's manipulating events behind the scenes. This thing is huge and it's bigger than you or I could have imagined." Emily's jaw clenches, her eyes narrowing as she processes his words. "And what? You work for them now? And reappearing like this at your own funeral? You better have something more than theories and speculation working." Naim glances between them, the tension rolling off Dwayne in waves. He can see the gears turning in Emily's mind, her trained composure masking whatever calculations she is making. The atmosphere is thick enough to cut through. "This isn't just about FBI protocol, Emily. It's about understanding why these things keep happening. Why the real battles aren't fought on paper or in hearings, but in dark rooms and whispers. Dwayne's voice is steady but carries the weight of urgency. You're speaking in riddles, Emily says, crossing her arms. Her eyes betray a flicker of something, doubt or perhaps recognition. If you know something, now is the time to say it. Dwayne takes a breath and glances at Naim, who watches with wide eyes, clearly trying to piece together the puzzle. There are agents moving in the shadows, orchestrating operations that have the power to reshape everything. And these operations are closer to us than you'd like to admit. And until recently, I am not just an agent. I run the whole operation. Emily's expression hardens, her fingers tightening against her arms. Before she can respond, a knock at the door startles them, breaking the tension like a snapped wire. One of Emily's aides opens it just enough to lean in, their face flushed with urgency. Ma'am, other agencies are arriving to pay their respects. They are requesting your presence. Emily's eyes flick back to Dwayne, a silent command blazing in them. The fact that you faked your death is one thing, but for you to join a terrorist organization is something completely different. You've crossed the line. Dwayne nods, feeling the weight of every decision that led him here. He turns to Naim, his old colleague and the one person who might be able to help him tip the scales. First of all, Emily, I've pleaded to save and preserve life, not take it. We were losing the fight against Jesse, and if I didn't join them, there was going to be a lot more bloodshed. I did what I had to do, and if given the choice, I'd do it again. And I resent being called a terrorist when this country has been terrorizing my people for generations, and they've used the law to do it. He says softly, but in a very aggravated and disturbed tone, I made my choice and I have zero regrets. With the office's walls closing in like the eye of a storm, the seconds tick by, each one a countdown to what comes next. The encounter with Emily is tense, each word weighed with meaning, as they stand face to face in a shadowed corner of the reception hall. The mournful whispers of attendees drift around them, blending with the soft rustle of winter coats and muffled steps on the carpeted floor. Emily's eyes, sharp and calculating, lock onto Dwayne's, probing for the slightest hint of deceit. Going forward, I will only communicate with you through Naim. It's not to ask for permission. It's not to relay commands or even stay within communication channels, Dwayne says, his voice low and measured, careful not to betray any tension. He holds her gaze firmly, projecting the image of a man caught between loyalties but holding firm. When I reach out, it will be because you need me to help save a life, not because I need you. Emily's expression remains inscrutable for a moment, the pause stretching uncomfortably before she inclines her head slightly. Fine, she replies. Make sure you keep me updated, Williams. We can't afford any more surprises. Dwayne's face doesn't flinch. He simply nods, a subtle show of agreement. Emily's eyes narrow one last time before she turns and merges back into the flow of mourners, her silhouette fading into the crowd. As the distance between them grows, Dwayne allows a small exhale. The tight coil of anxiety loosens slightly in his chest, but the battle is far from over. He returns to the secluded part of the cemetery grounds where Aaron, Jesse, and a few other members of the network wait. The calm February wind whispers through the bare trees, carrying the scent of damp earth. The gray sky above casts a solemn light over the graveyard, fitting for the somber occasion. His mother's figure, dressed in all black, stands at the head of the casket, her posture rigid with grief and strength. It didn't go as planned, but I did speak with Naim, Dwayne announces quietly as he approaches the others. The group leans in, eyes filled with anticipation and concern. The cold air seems to sharpen their focus as they wait for him to speak. The wind rustles through the barren trees, carrying with it a heavy silence. Aaron, Jesse, and the others have listened in through their secured comms, so they already know what has transpired between Dwayne and Emily. But now, they need to understand the implications. Dwayne's eyes scan the group, landing on each face with a steady resolve. Emily knows I'm alive. They will try and figure us out. That buys us time, but it puts us in a delicate position. While she is focused on me, we can work on these cases and move forward with our mission. We have to use this to our advantage, but we can't afford any slip-ups. Jesse's jaw tightens. the muscles in his face flickering with tension. So, we're feeding her misinformation? That could lead to blowback if she starts getting suspicious. Dwayne nods. Exactly. But this isn't just about misleading Emily. This is about giving us breathing room to fortify the network and protect our mission. The moment Emily figures out that I'm not feeding her real intel, she'll come at us with everything she's got. Aaron crosses his arms, his expression pensive. We'll have to tighten our communications and be on high alert. This changes the game. She'll be searching for your every move and, by extension, ours. The team exchanges glances, understanding the unspoken truth. Dwayne's choice to play double agent puts them all in the crosshairs, but it is a calculated risk they need to take. Jesse leans forward, his voice low but resolute. If we're doing this, then let's just do it. Reinforce our safe houses, check our intel sources, and secure our assets. We have no room for error, but we're not going to tiptoe around this nosy bitch. Dwayne's gaze shifts to his mother, who is still surrounded by mourners, oblivious to the life-and-death strategy unfolding just a few yards away. He clenches his fists, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Every decision he makes ripples out, affecting not just him but everyone connected to their network. We're not just surviving anymore, Dwayne says, his voice firm. We're positioning ourselves to take control. This is bigger than Emily, bigger than any one agency. We're in this for the people who need us, for those who've been overlooked and silenced. Aaron meets Dwayne's eyes, a newfound respect settling between them. I never liked her anyway. Let's do this, bro. A hush falls over the group, each of them processing the gravity of the moment. The path ahead is uncertain and fraught with danger, but they know one thing for sure. They are ready to fight for a future where the unseen and unheard will finally have a voice. Dwayne takes a deep breath as they disperse to finalize their next steps. The stakes have never been higher, but neither has his resolve. Emily might think she has the upper hand, but she underestimates the strength of a network bound by loyalty and purpose. And as long as he stands, they will not falter. Well done, Agent Williams, a familiar voice murmurs through the communication devices. Celeste, how long have you been listening? Dwayne replies. I've been here the whole time, watching this whole day play out, she says with a confident tone. Dwayne absorbs the revelation with a mix of surprise and resignation. Celeste's calm yet commanding voice crackles through the secured comm line. Yes, I was listening, Dwayne. I was the one who tipped off Emily. Dwayne's eyes narrow as Celeste's revelation settles in. The tension in his jaw becomes a visible reminder of the storm brewing inside him. He takes a deep breath, trying to rein in the anger bubbling beneath the surface. She tipped off Emily. Played with him and put him under a microscope to see if he would bend or break. It's brilliant, sure, but infuriating all the same. Celeste, he says, his voice taut with a barely contained edge, you put me in a position that could have unraveled everything. You used me as bait without a warning. That was disrespectful and demeaning. There's a pause on the line, the kind that implies careful calculation before a response. Celeste's voice comes through, calm and unwavering. I needed to know, Dwayne. Your loyalty to the mission had to be beyond doubt, even under the harshest conditions. This network doesn't operate on partial trust. Dwayne clenches his fists, the muscles in his shoulders stiffening. He feels Jesse and Aaron's eyes on him, their silent acknowledgement of his turmoil adding weight to the moment. Loyalty? Dwayne's voice drops lower, controlled but fierce. I was ready to burn it all to the ground to keep this mission clean. I died and put my mother through grief. I upended my whole life for the mission. You don't get to test me like that. Haven't I shown you enough? Dwayne, Celeste says, the slightest note of concession in her tone. I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. But understand this. We are at war. Not just with the agencies or Emily, but with a system that's been stacked against us for generations. I couldn't risk that you'd flinch when it mattered most. He feels the fight in him abate just a degree, tempered by the reminder of the stakes they are up against. But it isn't enough to extinguish the fire completely. Next time, Dwayne says, a warning laced through his words, you don't test my loyalty by blindsiding me. We're supposed to be partners, not pawns. There is a pause, then Celeste's voice softens. You're right. And now you're not a pawn, Dwayne. You're a king. I'm sending transportation to you. You'll see the whole picture of what you're leading soon enough. The comm line goes silent, leaving Dwayne with the simmering heat of anger and newfound understanding. He turns to Aaron and Jesse, the frustration still etched into his expression. Pack up, he orders, eyes sharp. We're stepping into the core of this fight. Aaron and Jesse, he continues, there's something I need you to do. I know this may sound weird, but I need you to kill my mother for me. Aaron and Jesse exchange a glance, a moment of silent understanding passing between them. Aaron is the first to speak, his voice calm but tinged with gravity. Are you sure? That's a serious play. Dwayne's expression is complicated, resolute. A flicker of vulnerability passes through his eyes before being replaced by determination. I'm sure, he says, his voice steady. Emily knows I'm alive. They'll use her against me. I need her to disappear and stay close. The only way to ensure her safety is to make the world believe she's gone, just like they believe I am. Jesse shifts, a small smirk lifting the corner of his mouth as he admires the audacity of the plan. We can make it convincing, he says. Same as before, a perfect cover, but I hope you are sure she's prepared for what comes next. Dwayne nods, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. He pictures his mother's face, her worry, her fierce love. This is for her safety, and he'll pay any price to protect her. I'll talk to her afterwards, he says, his voice carrying a mix of resolve and pain. It has to be seamless, a staged accident, no loose ends. Aaron's eyes darken, acknowledging the depth of what they are planning. We'll take care of it, we'll make sure she disappears smoothly, but it needs to be flawless, or someone like Emily will pick up on it. Dwayne's jaw tightens. We'll control the narrative. We protect our own and keep the leverage in our hands. Understood, Jesse says, the seriousness in his voice cutting through the room like a blade. We'll set it up so it mirrors what we did for you. It'll be real enough to fool anyone watching. A heavy silence follows, filled with an unspoken bond. They are playing a dangerous game, one where even the slightest misstep could unravel everything. But at that moment, as Dwayne's eyes meet those of Aaron and Jesse, he knows they are in this together. No matter how high the stakes, they will do what has to be done. Dwayne exhales, the ache of the decision burning in his chest. Let's get it done, fellas, for her sake and ours. As the team leaves the funeral, they arrive back at the base to see a car waiting just beyond the perimeter, hidden under the shadow of an old, overgrown oak tree. The base itself, Fort McClellan, buzzes quietly in the backdrop, a labyrinth of concrete structures and training fields humming with a low level of activity even at this hour. The air is tinged with a chill, typical of mid-February nights in Alabama, carrying the earthy scent of damp soil and pine. Dwayne steps out of the operations building, the weight of his recent encounters pressing down on him. The moonlight catches the edge of the black car's roof, giving it a muted sheen. He glances back, catching Aaron's eye as he stands a few paces behind, arms folded and face set with resolve. Jesse is somewhere in the background, keeping to the shadows but present, as always. Keep everything secure, Dwayne instructs Aaron, his voice low but firm. Aaron gives a curt nod, understanding passing between them without further words. Dwayne approaches the car, the driver stepping out briefly to open the rear door. The gesture is efficient and respectful, signaling the importance of this trip. He sinks into the leather seat, the familiar scent of upholstery and faint cologne wrapping around him. The driver settles back into his position, and the car pulls away from the base smoothly, headlights slicing through the dark. The drive is silent. The only sound is the soft hum of the engine. Dwayne's mind races, mapping out every contingency and recalling Celeste's instructions. The deeper he goes into this network, the more precise the stakes become, not just for him, but for everyone tied to this cause. They drive for what feels like hours, but is only a short ride to the small, private airstrip on the outskirts of town. The airfield is modest, flanked by tall grass and lit sparsely by a handful of floodlights. The jet waiting for him is sleek, black with silver accents, humming with readiness. The pilot stands at the base of the stairs, offering a brief nod as Dwayne approaches. "Destination Memphis," the pilot says, his voice professional and steady. "We'll be in the air for less than an hour." Dwayne nods, boarding the plane with measured steps. The interior is pristine, minimalist yet luxurious, designed for comfort and efficiency. He settles into a seat by the window, the dark expanse of the runway stretching out before him as the plane prepares for takeoff. The flight is smooth, the quiet punctuated by the low thrum of the engines. Dwayne's thoughts are relentless, each plan and counterplan taking shape as the city lights of Memphis come into view, sprawling like a constellation across the landscape. As they touch down on the private strip, the jet coasts into a hangar where a gathering awaits him. Celeste stands at the forefront, her presence commanding and serene, surrounded by 10 individuals whose poised, assessing eyes hint at deep influence and power. This is her royal court, the financiers and strategists, the unseen forces backing their mission. Dwayne takes a deep breath, letting the weight of the moment settle into his bones. This is a new level of the game, and he is all in. Dwayne disembarks the plane alone, stepping out onto the tarmac as the last rays of the February sun cast long shadows across the private hangar. The air is cool, the kind of crispness that hints at a chilly evening. The quiet hum of engines winding down fills the space, but his focus is on the figures waiting inside the hangar. Celeste stands at the forefront, her posture both regal and sharp, surrounded by 10 individuals whose mere presence exudes power and influence. This is her royal court, the financial backbone of the operation. Each of them is dressed impeccably, a mix of tailored suits and elegant attire that speaks to their status. Dwayne takes a moment to absorb the scene, the energy in the room palpable. These aren't just wealthy patrons, they are strategists and visionaries, key figures who have poured their considerable resources into this covert revolution. As he approaches, Celeste's eyes meet his with a blend of pride and expectation. "Agent Williams," she says, a smile playing at her lips. "Welcome to the core of our operation. We have a few people here that wanted to meet the man that is going to take us into the future." Dwayne's gaze flicks around the room, taking in the subtle nods of acknowledgement from the members of the court. Each one holds themselves with a practiced ease, but Dwayne's trained eye picks up on the slight shifts, the flickers of curiosity and scrutiny. A man with silver hair and a deep brown suit steps forward first. "We've heard of your recent triumphs, the retrievals. It's reassuring to know that the reputation preceding you wasn't exaggerated." Dwayne dips his head, acknowledging the praise, but keeping his composure measured. "I'm here because we're on the edge of something big. But if we're going to pull this off, we need clarity, unity, and the understanding that this isn't just about power, it's about purpose." A ripple of murmured agreement sweeps through the group. The woman with striking amber eyes stands to Celeste's left and speaks next. "We've silently provided resources for years, but this is different. Now we need to know the man we're backing." Dwayne looks directly at her, his voice steady and unwavering. "I'm here because I'm tired of cleaning up after the damage has been done. If we're going to make real change, we do it strategically, with precision, and without becoming the monsters we're trying to stop." Celeste's eyes sparkle with approval, but her expression remains serious. "And that's why I brought you here, Dwayne. It's time you see the scale of what we're capable of, resources that can rival a small nation. This isn't just a network, it's a movement that can't be taken lightly." Dwayne scans the room once more, reading each subtle shift, every twitch of an eyebrow, every glance. He senses that while Celeste trusts him, some in the room are still weighing their faith. "If any of you doubt my commitment, know this. I've risked everything to be here, and I won't stop until we've redefined the rules they play by." The silver-haired man crosses his arms, a hint of a smile breaking his stern exterior. "Good, because some of us are not just here to watch, we're here to act." Dwayne nods, feeling the weight of what lies ahead settle in his chest. He turns back to Celeste. "Now, let's talk about what's next and how we move from the shadows into the light without losing our soul in the process." The room erupts into conversation, a chorus of voices discussing the next steps. As Celeste begins outlining plans with her court, Dwayne's mind sharpens, analyzing every word, every plan. This is where the revolution solidifies its foundation, and he is now entirely in the storm's center. Dwayne steps forward, his eyes fierce and unwavering as he addresses the room. The tension crackles in the air like a live wire, and every gaze locks onto him. The hum of distant airplane engines fades into the background, leaving only the heavy silence of anticipation. "Can I say something?" Dwayne begins, his voice low but forceful. "I've talked about stopping the killings, about retrieving Daylon and protecting our people from the inside. But I need you guys, the administration, to know improving the criminal justice system is only one piece of the puzzle. It's a band-aid on a wound that's been festering for centuries. We need more." He pauses, letting the weight of his words sink in before continuing. "We need consolidated wealth. We need to give black faces not just hope, but living, breathing examples of power and change. We need role models. We need to be investing in us for us. We've had the first African-American president and vice president, and respectfully, that's not enough. Not by a long shot." The room is silent, eyes wide and faces tense with realization. The amber-eyed woman glances at Celeste, whose expression remains impassive but intrigued. Dwayne's voice rises, carrying an edge of urgency. "This generation, our generation, is missing its Martin Luther King Jr., its Malcolm X, its Marcus Garvey. We've allowed fear to creep into our bones, allowed ourselves to be silenced unless we're hidden within the safety of the crowd. Our role models now are athletes who are still under the thumb of a corporation who only sees us as pieces on the board that they can manipulate for their profit. And meanwhile, we've watched, time and time again, as white men get away with murder while we hold our breath and wait for the next hashtag. And if we dare to take a knee, we lose our job, or worst, we get completely ostracized. Well, I'm done waiting." A murmur ripples through the room, the royal court exchanging glances that speak of both concern and admiration. "I propose," Dwayne continues, his voice hardening with conviction, "that I become the face of this movement. And this network, this powerful unseen force that you've all built, becomes the mob that moves behind me. Not to riot, not to destroy, but to demand, to build, to claim what has always been ours." Celeste's eyes glisten, a hint of a smile curving her lips. "You're willing to put yourself in that kind of spotlight, knowing the risks, knowing what they'll do to someone who dares to challenge the system?" Dwayne meets her gaze with steely resolve. "I know exactly what I'm signing up for, and technically, I'm already dead, so they can't kill me," he says with a chuckle. "Let them try again. This time, I won't be alone. This time, we're going to redefine the game, and we're going to do it on our terms, and there will be absolutely nothing they can do to stop it." The silver-haired man, who has maintained a stoic silence, leans forward, his voice breaking the tension like the crack of a whip. "And what if the pushback is more than we anticipate? What if the system strikes harder than we expect?" Dwayne doesn't flinch. "Then we strike back smarter, harder, and louder. We don't just react, we anticipate. We stay 10 steps ahead. And we don't back down, not when we're this close to what we deserve." Celeste steps forward, the quiet confidence of a strategist. "If this is your plan, then know that the full weight of this court will stand behind you. But this isn't just about survival, Dwayne. This is about showing our people that there's a path forward, that there's power in unity and in leadership." Dwayne nods, feeling the energy in the room shift from tense apprehension to focused determination. He looks around at the faces of the powerful allies now watching him, waiting for his final word. "This is just the beginning," Dwayne says. "The game has changed. It's time to let the world know that we're not just playing it, we're owning it." The room erupts into fervent agreement, and for the first time, Dwayne feels the true weight of what they are about to unleash. But he is ready. For the first time in a long time, he knows exactly where he needs to be. The room settles into a charged silence as the weight of Dwayne's declaration hangs in the air. Celeste's smile broadens, her eyes reflecting a mix of admiration and challenge. "You have our support," she says, her voice firm. "But understand, Dwayne, being the face of this movement will put you under more scrutiny than you can imagine. Are you prepared to withstand the eyes of both our allies and enemies watching your every move?" Dwayne's gaze shifts across the room, taking in each member of the royal court, from the steely-eyed entrepreneurs to the silent financiers who speak only when necessary. "I know the eyes that will follow me. I know the danger, Celeste. But we're not just fighting to exist anymore. We're fighting to thrive, to show that we won't be silenced or crushed. A tall man with deep brown skin and a sharp suit, who until now has been listening intently, finally speaks. We have the resources. We can amplify your voice, protect you, and shield you, but there will be sacrifices, lines that we'll have to decide whether to cross. Dwayne meets his gaze with unwavering determination. There will always be sacrifices. The question is whether they're worth making for what we gain. And in this case, the answer is yes. We need to inspire. We need to educate. We need to show every black child that they can be more than what society expects of them. Aaron's voice crackles through Dwayne's comms unexpectedly, breaking into the room. Dwayne, we're wrapping up here. Your mother is safe and prepped for extraction. Just wanted you to know that part's under control. Dwayne's posture relaxes just a fraction, a small victory in a sea of battles. Thanks, Aaron, he replies quietly. The relief is brief. There is no room for rest. Celeste turns to the others and nods. We need to move now, all of us. We cannot afford hesitation. The FBI and other intelligence agencies, they'll come looking. They'll question what happened in Anniston, and soon they'll realize what they lost when Dallon went dark. Another member, an older woman with elegant gray curls and an authoritative presence, steps forward. What do you need from us now, Dwayne? What's our next step in building this network? Dwayne takes a breath, feeling the pressure, but also the powerful surge of purpose running through him. First, we go public with a controlled message, one that disrupts the narrative without putting us in direct crossfire. We'll need to establish connections within the media who can spin the story the right way. We need grassroots support, real stories of resilience that make people want to rally behind a cause that's bigger than any one of us. And the operatives? Celeste asks, her tone signaling the importance of this next phase. We neutralize their missions without sacrificing them, Dwayne says, conviction lacing his words. We're going to use them as allies, not just weapons. But we need to be strategic. Show them that this isn't just a fight against a broken system, but a movement they want to be a part of. Celeste's eyes gleam with approval. Okay, that sounds like a plan. A silent agreement passes through the room, an unspoken bond forged in that moment. Dwayne feels the subtle nods, the quiet resolve in the glances exchanged. They are all in. There is no turning back now. As the group disperses, Aang begin to mingle amongst each other. Dwayne stays close to Celeste. She studies him with a look that combines pride and scrutiny. You're stepping into a storm, Dwayne, she says softly. Are you ready for what that means? Dwayne turns to face her fully, his eyes sharp, unwavering. I'm ready for the storm. It's time we made them weather it. Dwayne pauses for a moment, letting the weight of his statement sink in. The royal court, previously engaged and enthusiastic, shifts slightly in their seats. Eyes dart around, searching each other's faces for an unspoken cue. The tension in the room grows palpable as he scans their expressions, each fleeting micro-expression revealing more than words ever could. One last thing, Dwayne says, his voice steady yet probing. I'm not sure how you all make your money, and I may not want to know. His eyes move from one member to the next, watching for the slightest flicker of reaction, a twitch, a tightened jaw, a narrowed gaze. He wants to know who will show their hand, even if unintentionally. A tall man in impeccably tailored clothes, whom Dwayne recognizes as a high-profile tech entrepreneur, leans forward and flashes a practiced smile. Agent Williams, rest assured that our methods are diverse and above board. We own businesses, we invest, we move with the market. A woman with short-cropped hair and piercing eyes nods. We're careful, Dwayne. We've built empires within the bounds of what society considers legitimate, she adds, her tone clipped but confident. But we don't deny that sometimes our reach extends to less conventional avenues when necessary for the mission. Dwayne's gaze remains steady. Good to know. I'm not here to disrupt how things have been operating, but I am here to ensure that whatever we do moving forward is not only effective, but defensible. We need legitimacy. If I'm to be the face of this, I need to stand on solid ground. An older man, whose deep voice earlier carried a warning, clears his throat. And you will have that, Dwayne. We're not naive. We know that having you lead means ensuring transparency where it matters. We want this movement to be untouchable. Celeste's eyes narrow, the corners of her mouth pulling into a thoughtful line. Dwayne, the network operates with calculated precision. We balance on the knife's edge between compliance and disruption. But if you think anything will come close to compromising our legitimacy, let us know as you make the corrections. Dwayne nods slightly, reassured but aware of the subtleties at play. He catches a quick, nearly imperceptible exchange of glances between two members on the far end of the room, one that suggests a history he'll have to dig into later. That's exactly what I needed to hear. We move forward together, but trust needs to be earned on both sides. A murmur of agreement ripples through the room, subtle nods replacing verbal affirmations. The air shifts as the tension eases, but Dwayne knows he has sown the seeds of scrutiny among them, just as he intended. Celeste leans in, her eyes searching his. "Welcome to the real game, Dwayne. I hope you're ready for what comes next." A thin smile crosses Dwayne's lips, determined yet guarded. "I've been ready for this my whole life." The meeting wraps up, the sound of leather chairs shifting and footsteps resonating off the polished floors as the members disperse. Dwayne lingers a moment longer, taking in the room, the faces, and the layers beneath the surface. He has stepped into a powerful circle, one that could either uplift or devour him, but he is ready to play.